Thank everybody.
I'd like to thank everybody.
Everybody, thanks a lot for being out here and helping out and enjoying the competition.
In the early days of the club, a national meet could be held in one of the sponsoring members' backyards. For instance, I held 6 national meets at my home. In my driveway, small parking lot I have in my profession, in my veterinary practice, but we had a national meet in my driveway. We'd have maybe 2 or 3 or maybe as many as 6 people selling stuff. We'd have probably 20 motorcycles, antique motorcycles show up, and maybe 50 people would show up. Now, as you see from the size of this meet, or the Ole meet, or Davenport, there's just no comparison to what it was back then. As the club grows, we get more and more public exposure. People are reading about us. For instance, there was an article in the Smithsonian on collecting antique motorcycles. There was an article in Popular Mechanics on collecting antique motorcycles, and so on. And we're gradually getting more and more exposure. With this, people remember Grandpa's motorcycle up in the attic, or an engine in a garage or something like that, and they find out about us, and the parts or the motorcycles become available, which is good for the hobby, you see. Now, some money exchanges hands, and prices have increased over the years because of this increased exposure, but we're getting parts available that no way would have been available for our restorers without this exposure.
What's the best motorcycle made?
There ain't no doubt about it. It's got to be an Indian motorcycle.
Well, 4-cylinder Indian.
I guess my husband would say Harley, but most of the people here will say Indian.
Well, that's a hard thing to answer. Certain models of Indian were good and certain were not so good, and I would have to say, in my estimation, probably a 101 Scout, Indian 101 Scout.
It's hard to say. I like them both. I like the Indian and I like the Harley.
You know, you're asking me a question that's going to lose friends if I answer that. That's going to lose friends for me.
Well, Sunday morning, the guys in the club try to get up early. That's usually a hard thing to do after Saturday night. But the big thing is to get the show field ready, post the signs, and try to get everybody with the motorcycles that are going to be showing them where they belong in their different categories. And although the vending is still going on Sunday, the main focus of the day is on the show. Some people won't take their bikes out until Sunday because they don't want to get them dirty or for whatever other reason, but they're all out and shined up and looking good on Sunday morning. And if you really want to see the bikes, that's the time to do it.
An antique motorcycle in our club is any motorcycle 35 years of age or older. Now, it's important to have a chief judge. My job, number 1, to coordinate the selection of judges. Number 2, to run brief judging instruction before the shows for the judges. And number 3, to break ties, if you please. Or, what we have a system here that works out very well. If we have an odd motorcycle, I will find an expert on that motorcycle to assist the judges. We consult, in other words. And I have the power to select an outside person who is authoritative on a particular motorcycle to help the judges. We try also not to have judges in a class that the judge himself has a bike entered, to ensure fairness. I don't think I'd have a problem with my judges, but some people might think so. So we don't like a judge to have a bike entered in that class.
What's it take to be a judge with the Antique Motorcycle Club?
Nothing. Wrong place at the right time. The wrong place at the right time. No, I think it's a matter of being involved for a long time and having some sort of an idea. I'm the first one to admit that I am not fully qualified to judge this class, but I've been involved in the club for a long time and have an idea of what to look for, and that's why there's 4 of us here, because 4 heads are better than 1, and we all pick up on different things that you have to look for.
We have a class for what we call antique motorcycles, and that will cover machines from the beginning up until 1929.
Well, let's say 1883 when the first motorcycle was made, up to through 1929. And in this class, we get a lot of real exotic stuff, unusual, very early, most interesting class. When the club was founded, this was the only class we had. As the club got older, more and more bikes were made eligible for judging.
Right now, we're trying to figure out which is the most original bike in the class. So we've started at the beginning, and we're working our way down through, and we're making a list of all the faults in each bike to help eliminate different things that'll determine the best one in the class. This is an awfully big class. We have some tough decisions to make, and we want to make sure that we're fair. So this seems to be the best way, by writing down the fault of each machine. Yes, I have the seat and a copper line with a question mark. As time goes by, there's more and more bikes in the class, and people are working so much harder to make sure that their machines are correct. It makes the job much more difficult for the judges.
We have a class we call the post-antique class, and that goes up to 1945.
This was the first class created to expand the judging eligibility.
What class are you guys judging now?
Post-antique.
And what is it you're looking for?
The current category, we're hunting for best restored motorcycle. We're going to have to get them to start this as well.
Original title, but I didn't bring that with me.
You just wanted with the sidecar originally, it was sold as a unit?
Yes. The sidecar was crashed in 1945, and you just put a whole new one, so it's a 1945 sidecar.
There, you cut it off. Thank you.
Army bikes were made through the war, 1941 or so on through 1945. So all Army bikes are included in this class. To people of our age that founded the club, the war was a big boundary line, you see. So we include in this class all bikes from 1930 through 1945.
And then we have a class called the post-war class, which covers from there up to 1955.
This class was created as the years went by, and we started to get more and more older bikes, and we started to admit them into the club for judging. It goes from 1946 through 35 years of age.
And this definitely came unchromed? And this is aluminum? Is this aluminum? Or is this metal?
Aluminum, that's correct. That's correct.
But you're missing a couple major parts.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Distributor cover
This is,
and the plate.
All right, so we really can't look at this one.
yeah, this is all on wrong. This stuff is all on wrong here.
Yeah. Okay, that's three.
All right, I think we gotta
You got three main
keep
things
we gotta
already.
keep walking
Right?
on this.
Let's keep walking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely is. Yeah.
He's got new plugs.
It's a restored bike.
It's restored. This one is. So that you know, anything as long as it's in keeping.
Why is this clevis chromed in this? That wouldn't be done.
No.
This wouldn't be chromed.
No.
He's got a couple items on here that he chrome plated, and he's got a couple items on here that he never touched.
You're right.
These are cool.
These may be new old stock.
They
wrinkle paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not
supposed to be wrinkled. I think we gotta walk.
Yeah.
Brake pedal.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got.
Is that a replacement stoplight switch there? Or is that original? No, I think the other ones didn't have, they weren't flared out like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably replacement.
All entrants in the judging classes must have running machines, and right now we're looking at for the best running restored, and the bike that starts the most easily in the class will get that trophy, and there's a trophy for best running unrestored and best running restored. If a machine does not run, it cannot be entered in the class or even be considered a contender. All machines must run. Can we have all entrants in the antique class come to start their bikes who have not started them yet?
You read me?
Yeah, Doc.
We want to get all antique entrant owners to start their motorcycles. All men with an antique motorcycle on the grounds, would they come to the grounds and start their bikes for the judges?
Not done so yet.
Those who have not started their bikes yet. Any man who hasn't started his bike yet, come to the antique judging grounds.
You've got to learn to change every man or woman.
I know. I stand corrected, any man or woman. The competition class includes all motorcycles from the beginning to the end. In other words, any competition bike made before 1955. These bikes, many of them will be upgraded as they went along. A competition bike, to remain competitive, never stood still. So you may have, suppose, a 1930 Indian, but it'll have components on it right up through the war.
I don't think I was ever going for the best, most original on that.
Well, no, I'm talking about the restoration. The restoration as a restoration.
Are you counting originality in a restoration call?
Originality to what there was on the bike the day it came out of factory.
Yeah.
The word restoration means like it came out of the factory.
Yeah,
if it is restored,
God, you create more problems.
I try not to.
You do though.
The day it came out of factory did not have gold braid. Okay?
And it did
not have a tag.
And it didn't have Brave.
It didn't have Anderson pegs either.
But you see, in racing, almost every modification is a legal modification because the bikes are so personalized.
But if you were counting the bike for restoration value only,
Joe Leonard ran with a car tire on the back at Laconia. Now, if you were judging his bike right now, would you say, "Oh, Christ, it's got a car tire on it, leave the factory like that"?
Yeah, but if the tire was a if it was a 1948 car tire, fine. But if it's a car tire that came off of my Corvette, I'd have a problem.
Wait a minute, well, you can't leave now.
I don't want to do this anymore. We're having difficulty in competition classes that many bikes were modified to the owner's personal desires and whims in a racing motorcycle. We have to determine if we can get by that with original factory spec restorations so that we can separate one from the other as a winner. Charlie, even though the bikes are basically simple in format, the decision becomes very difficult. You're trying to, get past originality into factory specifications. And we're talking about a motorcycle that was built before we were born, which adds another little problem.
These bikes, we like them to run, but because of the danger of operating some competition motorcycles, a lot of them don't have brakes, you see. We are content to have them just show proof that they would run. They must have spark and compression. You see? We would prefer that they run. The power cycle class was created to take care of the lightweight and add-on motorcycles. We think all two-wheel power vehicles should be in our club. There was a great many different makes of engines sold for add-ons. For instance, the Whizzers there, that was a separate unit you bought and put on your bicycle. Because we didn't get enough entries in this class, we expanded it later to include lightweight motorcycles, genuine motorcycles that were made up to 200 cc displacement. So now we call it the lightweight and power cycle class. Also, scooters are judged in this class.
First one made?
Yeah.
Geez, I don't know. It's that wooden, that replica, that Daimler thing or something, ain't it? I don't know. That was displayed someplace. Where was that? In the Indian Museum?
The very first?
Yes.
What was that thing that had the wooden wheels?
First production motorcycle, I believe, was an Indian, 1901. I don't think Harley went into production until 1903.
That's really a tough, the first year that American motorcycle